when does data make the work better? And when does it just make it safer?
I don't think it's wrong to be focusing on ROI, but I think if you're putting all your decision making down to what are the data telling you, you're going to miss out on some of those human imaginative leaps that we know can deliver great creative impact. It's about pulling all the data that's relevant into the building of the campaign, and then in terms of the ongoing effectiveness, it's really important to be able to constantly measure, evolve, optimize. That's where the conversation can get very meaty and meaningful in the boardroom, because you are proving out the work that you're delivering. Some creators will find it scary. We actually find it really meaningful because it proves out the work that we're doing.
What's one marketing buzzword that gives you the ick? Amazing we haven't talked about AI this whole time.
Well, I've tried to avoid it, but it's a great big elephant sitting in the corner of the room. What can humans come up with next? And what can AI help get us there? And how can that make brands stand out more than ever?
Hi and welcome to the CMO Office podcast. This is the first time we've done it live. It's normally filmed in Singapore, so I'm very excited. And it's partly because we're taking over the Clear Haze House at South by Southwest. My name is Nikki Taylor. I'm the Marketing Director for Analytic Partners, and I'm your host today on the podcast. And I have the very talented Toby, the very talented Toby.
First fact checking is required on that point.
Well, I have some facts on that. But Toby Aldred, who's the managing director for Saatchi, and he just picked up, here's the fact for you, he just picked up 8 Effies last week. Big congrats on that.
Thank you very much.
Well done. And in this candid conversation, we'll explore the intersection of creativity and commerciality, how brand builders are navigating the data demand, the fragmented attention, and the pressure to perform now but build later. So it's what happens when we have bold ideas, but we start having to have proof points behind them. So we're going to jump straight in, Toby.
Let's go for it.
And the 8 Effies in one night, creative comeback, or is it proof that your strategy is getting sharper?
Probably a bit of both. Okay. Thank you for the shout out on the 8 Effies there. We're obsessed by results, and I think there's absolutely there should be an expectation that your creative agencies are obsessed by results. It's why we build our own effectiveness practice to ensure that even when we are pitching bold pieces of creative, they're always underlined by the effectiveness and the impact they're going to have. Advertising agencies, I always think it's a good reminder to give to the team. Advertising agencies are absolutely founded to help build brands and grow brands. And whilst over time, occasionally that is shifted into other places where perhaps the focus shouldn't be, our focus these days is absolutely about building growth and growth above all else. It also happens to be a pretty crucial KPI for me as someone leading an agency. So I think that growth is a pretty good alignment point. And there's lots of great data and proof out there that can help shape some of those strategies. And the sharper it can make our work, the better, as far as we're concerned.
Awesome. Just diving a little bit deeper on that. So that's great. A wonderful foundation of what you do from an agency. But when you're supporting the marketers on the other side, as a former client-side marketer, we sit there in front of the CFO all the time, and it's like, what's the data to support this, right? So how are you helping them greenlight that budget for you to work with you?
Well, we use we absolutely understand the need to demonstrate and prove the growth lever that marketing is. It sadly comes under often the first piece of pressure when there's budget controls in place. So it would be foolish to overlook the importance and the need of the data. The best way we can help clients demonstrate in the boardroom is either by partnering with great organizations, someone like Analytic Partners, actually, just to give you a shout out, is someone that Saatchi have used to help influence the type of work we need to make, where it should be appearing. I was nodding along to a lot of what Paul was saying in the last half an hour or so. But also, as an agency itself, we've absolutely had to grow way beyond our initial degree of specialism and practice. So Saatchi is part of the Publicist Group now. That gives us the power to pull on all sorts of data sets, data acquisitions, data insights and experts that can help demonstrate the work we're putting to the table is as close as you can get to being proof of this will work and it will drive. Of course, it's always based on what people are telling you. And sometimes, particularly in the world of creative, a little bit of that skilled hunch is also required to take something across the line.
Yeah. Okay. But with so many channels and touch points, how do you keep that brand cohesive, but also culturally relevant or meaningful to the audiences? Like when you're creating these campaigns, it's a bit of a balance. We know that emotions and brand, we heard from Paul, definitely drive the results, but you've got that balance you've got to do.
Yeah. So we recently we've like to talk to clients about the importance of building or having the ambitions to build brand kingdoms. So that actually you've got to be remarkably consistent in every touch point that you're delivering. It's not just about the consistency of a TV ad or the consistency of one channel. It's about being consistent across every single engagement point, whether that's in service delivery, whether that's in business and product design, whether that's in the comms that you're putting out into the market. Part of that is fueled by the fandom that might appear in social media, so that's very important. But a kingdom demands of itself certain hierarchies and structures and cultural connections that go well beyond just a piece of comms.
Okay. I got 2 points. So it sounds a little bit like Lots of Littles that Paul was talking about,
True.
helping to build that overall big story.
Yes.
And linking everything from your long form content through to your short. A lot of people struggle as marketers when it comes down to the short form and not just the, 6-second TV ad or social ad. How do you as a creative help guide them to have that consistency when working with influencers? Because the whole thing about influencers, I know I'm throwing you a curveball here, but the whole thing about influencers is that, it's their authenticity. And yes, they may be there for your brand, but at the same time, there's a little bit of them and there's a little bit of your brand. So how do you link that back and how do you guide your clients on that?
That you're using the influencers, to use a bit of an old phrase, borrowed equity. So absolutely, as long as you're the brand guidance should be in the influencers that you're choosing to reach out to. That's where the brand kingdom and the rules of the brand kingdom need to play its part. Then you are making the active choice to hand it over to them, and you are driving fandom, love, engagement for the brand through the use of that borrowed equity of influencers, which are incredibly powerful and potent. But if you can give them the broad structures of why the brand should appeal to them, you then have to take off the guardrails and let them run with it. That's the medium.
Okay, sounds good. I agree. I mean, you do. But now I'm going to switch gears, and I want to know a little bit beyond the transactional, beyond the selling your products. On the client side, you got product team, everyone coming to you, sell my products. We heard a lot from Paul there about what happens if you push the sub brands and the halo effect and stuff like that. So how do you think, and how have you worked on building really great brands that last the test of time when you also have short-term metrics and budget to make work, really?
I wish there was one silver bullet for that. You've got to pull it back to the crossover between the brand truth and the human insights. Why the brand should mean something to the audience, and then you've got to have really clear rules, structures, rituals in place that mean whether you're spitting out a 6-second, a static, a long form piece of communications, they're all coming from the same an entertaining place. I think it's also important not just to market at customers, but also to try and create some cultural connection with them, and fuel conversation and get them involved in the brand. One really interesting example we did recently was with Heineken, big global beer brand. Not that popular in Australia. The awareness is actually slightly low. We talked about it having a lack of tap talkability. So in that instance, we invited Australians to rename Heineken at the tap, literally changing out the branding at the taps and on the bottles to all the different nicknames that Australians give a beer, whether it's a Mount Frothiosco or a Donald Brewman, or partnering with Daniel Ricciardo to create a Daniel Ricciardo range. It was an opportunity for the brand to actually interact in culture and deliver the message in a slightly different way.
Okay, interesting. But let's get real. When does data make the work better? And when does it just make it safer?
There is a risk it can make the work safer. Look, there's loads of great data out there. I think we'd have said data has always been at the heart of a great creative idea because it's just been the data of a human inside. It's just there's way more of it now. There's some really cracking first party, third party data that can help fuel cultural insights, behavioral insights. That's really exciting and that's really important. There's loads of great data from the likes of yourselves that can help influence where and when the work should be being seen. There's data that can help guide, are we getting the right value for money with the media that we're buying? There's data that you can use through creative testing, which helps call out and guide the work. All of those are important foundations, but ultimately you've got to make the leap that's the human connection, and that will be about guiding, finding the crossover between human insight and a brand truth.
Okay, so the brand truth and the cultural relevancy.
I'll use an example, which is Arnott's, and so a campaign we created for them around life's little moments, and the human insight around that was around the importance and the premium we place on the small moments of connection in our life. Popping over to see the neighbour, sharing a cup of tea with your mum, all these things particularly were fueled by lockdown, but actually are truisms throughout life. And Arnott's had a very natural role there because a lot of these little interactions are done over a little bite of a biscuit or a cup of tea, something like that. All we had to do in terms of the leaping was just writing relatable, humorous, emotional, tiny little moments in life that we could all relate to. And that's a great example of where the campaign has spoken out to a broad audience because of it.
Nice example. So I want to dive into a couple of the winners from last week.
Yeah.
So I know Hilux and also you touched on Arnott's,
Yeah.
but you can give me another one as well. A lot of them were very data driven because you had the effectiveness award from them.
Yes.
So how on earth did you turn the spreadsheet of all the data and the cultural insights and everything that you have? How did you really take that and make it award-winning creative?
Well, I suppose we've touched on this a bit already. A lot of the data insights that you're pulling can help sharpen what your behavioral insights might be that you're gonna spring off. Ultimately, you are still going to you're going to require great creative minds and artists to turn that into a story that connects at a human level and is emotional and engaging. And the best place to find those people is still in creative agencies, not data hubs. And fortunately, quite a lot of them work at Saatchi or want to work at Saatchi. So it's about pulling all the data that's relevant into the building of the campaign. And then in terms of the ongoing effectiveness, it's really important to be able to constantly measure, evolve, optimize. That's where the conversation can get very meaty and meaningful in the boardroom because you are proving out the work that you're delivering. So we always encourage, although data can often, some creators will find it scary, we actually find it really meaningful because it proves out the work that we're doing. So we would always encourage clients to look carefully at the data.
Can you share some of those meaningful, meaty conversations you had with the data and the CFOs, how they went?
The CMO office is brought to you by Analytic Partners, the global leader in marketing mix modeling and commercial analytics, which turns data into expertise to help marketers make an impact in the C-suite. What kind of impact? Last year, every dollar spent on Analytic Partners, we returned $70 in incremental revenue. Find out more at analyticpartners.com.
I'm interested. I mean, I've had my own, but I'm interested to hear what you had.
I think they can sometimes believe that they are the one source of truth. So it's useful for all parties to see things from another point of view. And actually, if you can show that you've put the robustness into it, use third parties that can demonstrate again and again that this is not your own skewed in-house data. This is actually data that's measurable. Mixed media modeling is really good because it can pull in the actual measure of marketing to the effectiveness.
Credibility,
yeah, so
unbiased credibility.
Yes, correct. And that's why we are such strong supporters of the Effie Awards as well, because it gives credibility to the work that we're doing, and we want to grow as an industry as well.
Exactly. No, I love that. Again, are marketers really overcorrecting? Are we chasing ROI too much? Have we lost our nerve to be a little bit risky in brand building?
Um,
Are we not brand building enough? I know like there's a range of spectrum, and,
Yeah.
and you know, Paul spoke a lot about he'll stop talking about creative wear, and when people actually realize that they need to do
Yeah.
creative wear in, are we chasing too many performance metrics? Are we not giving creative enough credit yet?
Well, to the previous answer, it's really important that we are demonstrating that the work we do is a real growth lever, because it often falls first when times are a bit tough and budgets need to be tightened. So
It does.
it's really, really important that we are able to demonstrate that beyond just brand metrics. So brand metrics are often very important because they're driving the work through the funnel, if we're still allowed to talk in funnels. So I don't think it's wrong to be focusing on ROI, but I think if you're putting all your decision making down to what are the data telling you, you're going to miss out on some of those human imaginative leaps that we know can deliver great creative impact. So it's about using it to help guide. It's about using it to help prove. It's not about using it to make every single decision.
Okay. And on the podcast, I always like to simplify things because we have a range of audience from, you know, beginner marketers right through to CMOs. So if they don't have a big budget and can't afford Saatchi and Saatchi, or they don't have marketing mix modeling, you talked about brand cues that they should be looking at, some data points. What would be those data points you'd recommend that they should be leveraging when they're thinking that through to make their case? To get the budget to have Saatchi and Saatchi.
We have clients of all shapes and sizes. All are welcome. Look, there's a series of very accessible and open source tools that any client, no matter how small, can get hold of in terms of Google Analytical tools or open source tools. Get your hands on what you can. When it costs to employ creative agencies, it costs to employ data analytical agencies. Make your choices.
Yeah, I mean, I think at Analytic Partners, so one of the things that we talk about, obviously, we have the marketing mix modeling, but in my previous roles, at UPS, where it was not as a bigger budget to be able to do it all the time, we would look at things like brand search, because if you know that is trending up or down, you can actually see what's going to happen with your sales. It was a little bit of an indicator of telling us if things were going well in the market. So I think there's things like that you can always look at. And then, like you said, there's a lot of free tools out there, which is great. A couple of things. So one of the things I always found being on the client side is, I was always taught, because I've been both sides. So I was always taught, make sure you have a good brief for the creative agency, and the agencies make sure that you communicate very well. What are 3 things that you really wish marketers on the client side knew when they're working with a creative agency to make your life easier, but also their life easier?
I would love always be open to the random.
The random.
You are working with, at the heart of a creative agency. There's great thinkers, there's great strategists, there's great data analysts, there's hopefully really good people who help create a great culture of partnership. The creatives are artists. They want to breathe themselves into their work. So have an allowance for that. Don't get frustrated by it. Would be my first point. So always be open to the unexpected that may come out of a brief.
Openness, yes, I like that.
That would be point 1. Can you
openness, but they can challenge, right?
Oh, absolutely. There should always be a culture of robust challenge. And that is important, that the challenge can happen on both sides. Where things start to break down is where the challenge is only allowed from the client. Obviously, you always want to create partnerships where it's robust debate, and ultimately the work that's winning is the work that's going to have the biggest impact.
Okay. Almost done. In the boardroom where performance metrics rule, so you're talking to CFOs, what's your creative agency power move?
Well, there is no new power move, because it's kind of always been there, but we are actually backed now by more data than ever before. And that is that the power of emotional work is proven. Fortunately, we have great people like Paul standing up and demonstrating that. But the power of emotional brand building is demonstratively above and beyond that of purely doing performance-based work. So the case for creative storytelling has never been more powerful. that's very much to our advantage. I think where we've had to stretch and learn and prove out our capability, and has actually taken the creative into whole new interesting places, is absolutely embracing the world of data that's now available to us. As I say, whether that's through first party or third party, or even better if it's combined data sources, which are delivering us behavioral insights that we wouldn't have been able to see or pick up before, and can help inspire the creative work. I think that's very much on us, where we can align the data points and demonstrate the proof across the different agencies that a CMO may be working with, so that a CFO or the board has one source of truth. I think that's behest upon the agency and a really important piece.
I think the one source of truth is, because it's a little bit paralysis with data everywhere, isn't it? So as a marketer sitting on the other side, a lot of the times digging through all of this, I know my head used to just explode. I used to give to my team, I'm like, just come back and tell me the insights. So I think having a partner that can really drill down, but not just that, I think when it comes to data, it's about drawing the insights, the right insights, and making sure you understand where the data has come from and if it's validated or not, to help you those assumptions. And then I think, like what you said, when you're in front of the CFO, it's the narrative and the storytelling of what you do with the data that makes it exciting.
I mean, one of the things we found most powerful particularly over the last 3 or 4 years, where it's really accelerated. This feels like a shout out, but I'm just giving a case study point of view. Is because Saatchi is part of a broader group, the Publicis Group, that one source of truth naturally happens all the way through the conversation I'm going to be having with a client. So we will have where we're able to combine our creative practice like Saatchi, a media practice like Spark Foundry, connect it with some of the data acquisitions we've made with Lotame, which gives, I think, 90% of Australia are able to identify third-party data with. Very rich data pool if we're then able to combine it with the client's first-party data. So we are able to go through one connected process through all the agencies. Tick, that saved a load of time and efficiency for clients to invest in their business. One connected culture. We're all rowing in the right direction, the same direction, which is about delivering a brilliant impact for the clients. And then one true data connected source. So to your point, you've not got different well-meaning experts all giving you slightly different data skews, but you've got the one source of truth through which you can build everything and measure everything. And then attaching to that, where we need to, additional third-party data partners like your good selves to help demonstrate that the work that's gone in is actually proving itself in the real world with ROI metrics and so forth. We're finding that quite a potent mix at the boardroom table.
Nice. As a creative director, not creative managing director, but you talk a lot about data now, don't you? You're such a creative person.
It's very important.
It is very important, but it's amazing where it's going, which I guess just to round it out of the conversation before I ask our last fun question, where do you think as a creative head, where the industry is going for you? And on top of that, is there anything that you're super excited about that you're working on that you want to share?
Oh, okay. I'll come to the
two-part question.
Come to the latter one. Generally, broadly, always excited and fascinated by the ability of humans to just connect random thoughts together, the bouncing together of neurons to create something exciting and new. And we have a great new tool and partner now in AI, and you see some of the fun, crazy stuff that's constantly filling your feeds.
Amazing. We haven't talked about AI this whole time.
Well, I've tried to avoid it, but it's a great big elephant sitting in the corner of the room. It's fascinating and exciting, and I can't possibly predict what it's going to do to creative agencies. But I know at the moment it's a really exciting new tool. It is at the moment still requiring the creative ingenuity to ask it to come up with the resulting piece of visualization that it spits out. So that's it's like a booster to creativity. So at the moment it's very, very exciting. What it holds for the industry in the future, no one can possibly predict, but so generally very enthusiastic. Still lots of what can humans come up with next, and what can AI help get us there, and how can that make brands stand out more than ever. There is a great quote I want to go back to, actually, from the Saatchi brothers when they were founding the agency, which was back in the 1970s. And they said, if you want to stand out, you can't afford to be ignored. And so their founding advice was to ensure that the creativity that you are putting out into the market is there to be noticed. So sort of pulling back on some of your earlier questions, don't let the moderation average it out.
Yep.
The tools and the systems and the practices and the fluid devices and jingles and logos, they're all very good tools and guides, but don't let the system don't let the tide drag you into a place of mediocrity. You're coming to a creative agency to be creatively noticed. So always excited by where that might take you. In terms of work that's coming out, what have we got coming up? Look, we've got a great heritage in the Toyota Hilux work. That's always a big piece of work for Saatchi and Saatchi. Kind of feel like it's quite a big piece for the industry. Fortunately, was recognised at the Effies with 4 awards last week. So delivering in creativeness and effectiveness. They will do work going forward consistently. So there might be something interesting coming out of that. I'm sure there will be in the future. I don't know when that future point will be. Otherwise just looking forward to working with all our clients. Many great clients to work with.
Love that. Love that. Now, I've got a tradition on the CMO Office podcast. We ask each guest, the last question we ask them is, what's one marketing buzzword that gives you the ick? It can't be AI. Everyone says that.
Lean in, maybe. Lean in feels like a massive excuse for it's like please forgive me, I was leaning in. So I'd go of Saatchi and Saatchi, I would demand more original thought, and I think leaning in creativity is the exact opposite where we want to go. We want to lean out, we want to be sharp, we want to be noticed, we want to be elbows out, that's why I'm lean in would be the one.
Lean in. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. And for those that are watching, thank you for watching the CMO Office. You can subscribe to the-cmo-office.com. We're also on Apple or Spotify. Before I close out, if anybody has any questions for the talented Toby, you can raise your hand and we're happy to answer them. Otherwise, we'll let you grab a coffee.
I'm just fascinated. What are the AI tools that are your go-to tools that you're using at the moment?
Interesting.
It's a good, like all the ones you would think. We have we have like a toolbox called Sandpitch, or is it Sandbox? I never quite remember the correct phrase, but pretty much all the AI tools you could think of, from your Chat GPTs down through to all the main platforms that have the same sort of slight learned language models.
You're a Chat GPT or a Claude person?
I use Chat GPT quite
Ooh.
a lot. A lot on in the past, art directors would have scamped things, everything. A lot of stuff's now visualized through at an early development stage through AIs, or it's also quite useful for developing work that's needed for research. You'd use ChatGPT, like I say, it's like a bouncing partner, just like we all would when we wanted to have some fun as well. All manner of AI used in the data practices that we have as well. But yeah, probably for me, I'm a Chat GPT guy.
So,
version 5.
I mean, that's a great question. And I'm assuming through our conversation is the ideation that you're really leveraging it at the moment.
We'd use it as a early brainstorming partner.
Yep.
And that's a bit where I go, I don't know where it will go, but at the moment we're using it as early brainstorming partner. We are using it to help bring ideas to life.
Is it fast tracking, making it more efficient to get that mock up to the client?
So
they can
yes.
see?
So there's areas where it is about speed, and it would help us bring some of those things to life. I suppose it's still, for us, it's still not trumping creative and human original thought, but it's a really interesting partner.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to the first live CMO Off podcast. My name's Nikki Taylor. Tune in to next time. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, Toby.
Pleasure.